Testy, testy, test, test. Testy, testy. Let me go. But I won't let go. Oh. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. I know you're here, but you must be working. But that's okay. I'll make some noise. That's how I roll.
Hey friend,
Hello, how you doing?
I'm here.
Are
I'm
you?
speaking like really softly. I'm in office.
Are you? Oh wow, you're in the office.
Is my video on?
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear
I
me?
can't see anything. I can hear you.
Can you?
I
Are you on
can't
your
see
iPhone? Yeah.
anything. I am.
Have you just swiped to the left or something? Do you have more screens? Oh no, you're gone.
Muted. Can
What
you
kind?
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Nah, you're gone now. Yeah, I can see you.
Hi, if you can see me. I can't see anything I'm doing.
What do you see? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
What do you see on your screen?
I see your screen.
Oh, okay, but you can't see me like little.
I can see you little now.
Oh, okay, cool.
I couldn't before.
All right. Yeah, you can swipe to the left and the right to get different views. You probably already know that. Oh, but it keeps just making you disappear, which is
Yeah,
interesting. I don't know why that's happening.
weird.
Um,
Anyway,
so you're at work, but is there anything,
I am. I'm
any
going to turn my video
questions
off
you might
now.
have? Yeah, that's right. I know you can't really talk, but if there's any questions or things you'd like me to express or touch on, you let me know. I think there's
I
one
sure
person.
will.
Thank you. I think there's one person on Twitch. So if you're in the Twitchy world, and it's not just my device as that viewer, let me know what you'd like me to do. Specifically around music theory would be considerate. But yeah, we'll just wait a few minutes and I'll rustle up something to talk about for half an hour because that's how I roll.
I don't know if this is a problem on my end or yours, but my audio is quite muffly.
It's muffly.
I think it just might be me though.
Can you hear the piano?
I can hear everything, but it's just got this staticky, muffly sound coming out of my left ear, but it might just be me.
I feel like all my audio is good, but are you using
It's
AirPods?
probably me.
You got AirPods?
I am.
I mean, it
Yeah.
should be fine. You can always join in on the Twitch. That might be better. which would involve more work and app downloads.
I have Twitch, but
Is it annoying? Is it bad?
No. I think I'm just more used to Zoom.
Oh no, the audio.
Oh, the audio, right? I mean, I could, but
Is it bearable?
I meant it's fine. It's just my left ear, so I think.
All right. Yeah, the headphones, they're good, but sometimes they do weird things. Anyway, so this is
just the same.
Yeah.
What are these pictures?
These are from the weekend.
Where did you go?
I went to Amherst.
Did you have a good time?
I did have a good time. I had a great time. We stayed in an Airbnb that was meant to be 2 bedrooms, but it was 1, and it was 4 of us. So I slept on the ground. It was a good time. Yeah, this is where Amherst is.
Was the weather okay?
The weather was, it was like generally good. You know, it was cold. A lot of people were not vibing the cold, understandably. And seeing something moving in my camera. I'm going crazy. Oh, it's my pen. I would have just been flicking my pen. Anyway, yeah, the weather was good. It was quite rainy, and we went for a walk into some foresty area to some rocks, and it was quite nice. Yeah, it's nice. It happens every few months. So this is the second one I've been, and then there'll be another one like on the term 3 holidays, which made me realize I was like, I should do term breaks for the music theory, because my motivation this week and last week has been pretty like just not really strong. So,
do you go with the same people every time?
Well, it's the same teacher who runs the whole thing. And yeah, so she runs the retreat and all that wonderful stuff, and teaches meditation, and you know, some people come back and then some people don't. Sometimes the environment's not so great, like it's kind of cold and stuff, so not everyone vibes that, understandably. All right, let's make a start. Looks like it's a one-on-one session with Wing Yi and potential viewer on Twitch, but again, I'm not really sure. Let's see. I'm gonna carry on from some theory stuff. Obviously, that's what we're doing in theory. So, but some of these rhythm things. So each rhythm, let's just recap for a second. There's the semi-breve, which lasts for 4 beats. There's the minim, which lasts for 2 beats. The crotchet, which lasts for 1 beat. Quaver, which lasts for half a beat. And then the 16th would last for a quarter of a beat. It gets a bit confusing as soon as you get to crotchets and under, because I generally refer to quavers as 8ths and 16 and semi-quavers as 16ths. But that's because it's all coming back to the semi-breve being referred to as a whole note. So it's all kind of relative. So if the semi-breve is a whole note, the minim is a half note, the crotchet is a quarter note, the quaver is an 8th note, and the semi-quaver is a 16th note. So it's all about subdividing. Generally, when you see a semi-breve, you want to be able to understand that there are subdivisions within the semi-breve of 4 beats. I'm going to have a check on the Facebook and just see if anyone's popped in any requests. No. Okay, that's right. Now, these are just for sound durations, but as we can imagine, each of these have an equivalent, which would be for rests or silence, because we need to actually be able to denote silence. And of course, the minim and the semi-breve rest are very similar. And I always mix them up, and I've been doing this for so long. And now I'm just paranoid that that's wrong. And that's right. so similar. Oh.
Is there a way of remembering whether it goes on top or underneath? Because I
There,
mix them up as well.
it's just a signifier, you know. So, it will always be in this position that I placed it in. As for why the semi-breve rest goes on the second line and the minimum goes on third line, that's a bit unsure. But they won't move. You won't just move them up and down. You just keep them where they are. The tricky thing is that they're the same symbol effectively, but they're just positioned differently. That's the only annoying thing. Like, I know them when I see them, but when I have to pull them out of thin air, I'm just like, oh, which one goes on top and which one goes on bottom? I guess you could look at it like the larger one goes on top. That's probably a way of looking at it. Some people call them top hats or like upside down top hats. I don't know about that. Whatever floats your boat. So this is
I like that.
Yeah, the top hats. You like the top hats? A bit of theatre, you know. I don't know if that's theatre.
It's theatre and it's also horses, so that's great for me.
Oh, really? Good. So the yeah, I mean, I think some people say like the minim is a top hat and then the semi-breve is a bucket. So like maybe the bucket's bigger so that it lasts longer or something. I don't know. Whereas like you have the top hat and the notes fall out or something. I don't know. So the semi-breve lasts for 4 beats and the minim rest lasts for 2 beats. We just call them their names and then the word rest. Semi-breve rest, minim rest. Whole note rest, you can, but most people will say semi-breve rest, minim rest. Then you have to forgive me, I'm moving a little slow today. And I can't even do this drawing justice, so I'll get a symbol. No, not that one. This one. So this is the crotchet rest. Just use the symbol in the program. Now these shouldn't move, okay? That's just my dodgy placement. It should be more like this one, kind of in the center. This is the one that's probably like the one that you go, okay, you don't really look like anything else. You know, I guess the other ones don't really, but the crotchet rest is just this guy that just is a bit weird to draw, and then you have to draw it. It's like, oh, that's kind of like a shorthand way of doing it. But even then, it's like that looks completely different. So, oh, there's a mic right next to me. So, and then we get into quaver rest. And again, I'll use a symbol just so you can see it a little clearer. And then we have semi-quaver rest. So as soon as you get the quaver rests and lower or smaller, you just add more flags to them, and they'll keep getting, for example, semi-demi would be 1, 2, 3. But right now that's quaver. Keep changing colors for no real good reason. Semi-quaver. Okay. Cool. So then we got our note rests, and pretty much with that collated, we should be pretty good with noticing most rhythm. The second things, some other things to note are ties, not to be confused with slurs. So a tie is one note joined by a curvy line, if you like, to the same note on the other side. If it's the same note on the other side, it is a tie. And if it is the same note and it is a tie, it is to say that you hold that note for that extra duration. So don't re-articulate the note. Just hold the note. This is a bad example because you wouldn't see a minim tied to a minim. You just use a semi-breve. But just to give you a bit of an idea. Now, slur, again, this is not really to do with the rhythm, but a slur is more about phrasing, which of course you'd be familiar with your violin experience. The slur is, for example, sort of strong, short in this setting. So the first note will be stronger and the last note will be a little shorter. And it's also to indicate legato or smooth or smooth phrasing. Legato is generally referring to smooth continuity between the notes. So like, you might have a larger phrase and with a giant slur over the top of it. Generally with like lyrics, like music, melody, the slurs will be over, depending on the music, of course, but if it's like pop stuff, the slur will probably most likely just be over one syllable that is many notes, also known as melisma. Let's write that down. Melisma is when we have multiple notes per one syllable. So I'll try to find an example of that, but it could just be the ah, and it'd be something like that. I just made that up, but much better. The kind of key example for melisma is like Beyonce or Whitney Houston or something like that. So we'll see. We might call upon some examples, maybe. Sure. We got ties, we got slurs, and I'm just talking about slurs because I don't want you to get them confused. Even though they look similar, it's important that the tie goes into the note that is the same from the one that it's just moving to from. And then the concept of dots. Dotted rhythm. So the idea of dotted rhythm is that the half of the note that the rhythm has, oh my gosh, half of that note is added to the note that the dot is next to. So, for example, crotchet lasts for one beat. And if I add a dot to it, I would add half of that one beat, which is half. So it means I'm adding 1.5. Now, as we know, there's two ways to express rhythm. This half is realistically an eighth note, and that crotchet is realistically a quarter note. That's where things get a bit confusing. All you need to know though is if you've got a piece of music that's 4/4 and you've got this dotted crotchet, you need to find the strong beats. Then you need to divide the beats by 8. And then the crotchet is going to last for 1 and, so 2 quavers. And then the dot adds an extra quaver. So then this dotted crotchet will actually be the length of 3 quavers. That's all it's saying. 3 quavers. But instead, you hold the note rather than play 3 quavers. And it's also just a neater way of writing it. Cool. And then, we start to sort of move into syncopation. Syncopation is the rhythms that are played off of the strong beats, in between the strong beats. Sometimes they're anticipated or sometimes they're prolonged. In this case, the strong beats are 1 and 4, and then the syncopated beat is on the and of 2. 1 and 4. 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. Boom, 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 boom. It's really important to be able to embody and subdivide syncopation as it's generally these rhythms. We generally like to place things on the strong beats, and internally we're generally not subdividing the beats evenly enough, or even not subdividing at all, and therefore we get this sort of 1, 4. Either we delay the beat and we push it onto the 3, or we make it too early, 1, 2, or we put it in some weird in between place. So that's just something to note. It's really good to practice these sorts of things, especially if I've just worked with a lot of choirs and ensembles where the syncopation is not super clear. For whatever reason, we don't know. Maybe not enough practice, not enough subdivision. So sometimes we have, and this is a brand, like I'm just sort of going off on many tangents around just the subject of rhythm. Sometimes these syncopations are accented. So we'll have our accent. Accent just means to play the beat a little stronger. Not only that, sometimes if it's an important beat but it's anticipated before a strong beat, depending on the genre of music, we'll add an accent to it. Predominantly swing music, boom, ba-doo, pa, pa-ting, pa, pa-pam, pam, pa-ti-ta. So there's a tendency when we look at music like that, we would most probably see the syncopation, the tied note, pum, pa, party, pa, party, pa, party. So that's and one or and three, depending on what we're doing here. It's most likely that it's going to have an accent on it. But that also has to do with the actual harmonic progression of the piece. If the harmony is changing, then for sure it's most likely going to have an accent. So we have dots, we have accents, we got ties, we got slurs. Generally speaking, you'll see a tie occur across a bar because you'll have a crotchet, and then like the note will just want to be longer because the composer wants it to be longer. So rather than just sort of getting rid of the bar line, because you can only have a certain amount of notes within one bar, we add a tie, and then the tie will extend that note. Let's do my what do we call it? Random. What's it called? Roulette. Bam. Okay. All right. Here we go. What's this? I'm well. I don't know what this is. That's all right. So let's break it down. 3/4. 3 quarter notes in a bar. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Great. We've got in this piano conductor score, we've got a treble clef, a treble clef, a treble clef, and a treble clef. Great. Okay, most commonly we would see a bass clef in that bottom stave, but in this context, the music is higher on the piano, and there's no use writing a bass clef if the notes to be played are higher. If all music had treble and bass is the piano stave, and then you'd have to write only for treble and bass, the music would be quite boring. So in this context, it's like, hey, we're gonna just write a little higher, and I'll just play it in. There's the notes there. So look, you could write that left hand in the bass clef, but you'd have a lot of ledger notes, and it'd just get a bit problematic. Okay, so we've got three quarter notes per bar. So basically, before even analyzing this, I want to check the key. We haven't touched too much on keys, but basically if there's no accidentals, no sharps or flats, which are also referred to as accidentals, we are in C major or potentially A minor, but the larger picture of it is C major. We don't need to complicate with whether it's minor or major. Just the general sort of home of the key will be related to C, at least, in some way. So no flats, no sharps, which is great. We like that, nice and simple. In these piano conductor scores, you generally have a couple more staves, because the extra staves are usually indicating, they're just creating space to indicate extra melodies that are played by other instruments. In this song, there is nothing there. It's just adding that maybe for consistency so that the formatting doesn't change all the time for each song in the score. But in some scores, you'd see lots of melodies through those staves to indicate maybe some flute stuff or some other instruments. In this song, though, there's not a lot of altered melodies. There's not a lot of occurring melodies at the same time. Pretty much the whole orchestra or ensemble is playing relatively the same thing. So therefore, it's quite simple, and based on what I can analyze, it is underscoring because there's not a lot of melody. It's quite slow, slightly based on the fact that it says slowly at the beginning, but also the melody seems to be quite broad and not rhythmically interesting. And then, of course, you've got this dialogue, which is like hands down underscoring. That's not a song if there's talking, because that would be very confusing for the audience. So, usually music will be called in to help amplify or signify or emphasize some sort of emotional undertone that we'd like to call upon as dialogue is being spoken in this case. Not all the time, and sometimes if there's not inherent emotion within the dialogue, as in like we don't want the audience to feel what's happening, we just want them to observe, then maybe we would remove the underscoring or not use underscoring at all. That's just my opinion anyway. So we've got dynamics, piano. Okay, that's soft. Piano, you can go smaller, pianissimo. You go triple P. That's really, really soft. You have to be very good to be able to do that, I would say. Just to get that nuance of really, really soft. And then you've got these little brackets here. You've got rec, which I'm going to politely assume means recorder. It's just very uncommon to see a recorder in an orchestra, but why the hell not? And then we've got harp in inverted quotes, which most probably means it's actually programmed on a keyboard. And then the other instruments: flutes, oboe, horns, brass, bass. But the word tacit, so didn't read that. Tacit meaning don't play. So realistically, this is a really simple underscoring. I'm already getting a large understanding of the colors. I'm getting the fact that the harp and the recorder, they're both quite subtle instruments, despite probably our memory of the recorder growing up. You've played quite beautifully at a piano dynamic. It's in C major, so it's very pure, very open. And then this harp is quite a simple accompaniment as well. So I would say that the harp is only playing these chords, and then the recorder is playing this melody. Now, of course, you know, if a pianist was playing this in a rehearsal, they would play the whole thing. So we get something like that. Probably even a bit slower. And the beautiful thing about the harp, viola. Yeah, you missed viola. How could you? That's interesting. Viola, harp, and recorder. That's really sweet. It's a very uncommon combination. So I reckon that would sound very sweet. The viola is a rich, romantic instrument and often understated, but can provide a lot of warmth to something, especially if it's pedaling that C. So the notion of pedaling is to have this recurring idea that's occurring constantly throughout an extended period of time. I would assume that the viola is sustaining the C. So then you've got two sustaining instruments, the recorder and the viola. The harp is technically a percussion instrument. I hope I don't regret saying that. From the perspective that you can't alter its sound once it's played. So technically, it's going to ring out a little bit, but technically it doesn't have the duration. You can't alter the duration as the notes are being played, like the recorder and the viola, through breath and through bowing. So when I'm breaking up the rhythm, I will just want to be able to notice my strong beats. I'm also going to get rid of all this nonsense right now. It's pretty easy to find the strong beats. I mean, like, we got a minim that lasts for 2 beats, and then a crotchet that lasts for 3 beats. That's our 3 beats. You know, no issue. 3 beats per bar, bam. Then we've got dotted business. Okay, so a minimum is 2 beats, and then we add a dot, we add half a beat. So we're going to have 3 beats. Pretty simple. So the dotted minim will last for 3 beats per bar. And then we've got these beautiful ties here. So I would not rearticulate that C. More importantly, if I was playing a sustaining instrument, I would definitely not rearticulate it, and I'd keep the C extended over the second bar. And we have a slur. And as we can see, the slur is moving from a different note to a different note. It's not a tie. If it was a G on the next note, it'd be a tie. So it'd be like da, 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 you know. So that's how I'd articulate it with my voice, that slight sort of moving to the next note a little bit earlier. But I'd want some sort of 3-1, some sort of movement. It's not da, 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 da. The phrase doesn't end on beat 3. It connects over to beat 1. So then we've got this beautiful foundation that's created by the viola. Da, da, you know, throughout the whole thing. Da. And then the recorder helps us string together beats 3 and 1 and bars 1 and 2. So da, da, and you got to keep hearing the da, and then da, da, da. So that's pretty cool. And generally the phrasing would naturally phrase off towards the end of bar 2. Da, da, ya, da, da, ya. We wouldn't just sort of cut it off abruptly. All right. This is a pretty piece of music. So if we just go on our notation tangent for a moment, every good boy deserves fruit, FACE for face, for space. Good boys deserve fruit always for bass. and all cows eat grass for base lines. In this case, it's all treble clef. So every good boy deserves fruit and face. Every good second line, C, face, and then we keep going up the alphabet. So the top line is an F. If I have a space above the F, it's a G. If I have a line above the space, it's an A. If I have a space above the line, it's a B. If I have a line above the space, it's a C. But you got to keep drawing the lines as if they're ladders. Okay, they're called ledger lines or ledger notes, and it's important that you keep the previous lines there. If I just drew the line here, technically that would be an A, but it'd be a really crudely drawn A because the computers are much better at lining it all up. So we got this wonderful 5 chord, G, C, G. When I say 5 chord, kind of a 5 chord. It's not really, but if the chord symbol was C5, then I'd play C and G. So I'd play the C and I'd play the 5th of C, which is a G. In this context, it's a G, C, and a G up the octave. Okay, but there's more information to be had, so it's not technically correct. And then in this hand, I've got this cluster chord of sorts, bit of cluster. Okay, so it's like clusters are generally like tones or semitones played very close together. This is borderline cluster. To our ears these days, probably not considered too clustery, or rather too dissonant. But in this case, we have C on the ledger line. C, middle C is always there, okay, on that first ledger line. C, D, E. C, D, E. No issues there. So creates this nice resonance, which is lovely. So, what do we got? Let's have a bit of a play. I'll try to read it in this 2-page scroll. Hopefully my eyes are okay. So piano dynamics, C major. I'm going to try articulate that top melody a little bit. I'll try not to be too obtrusive as it's underscoring. And we'll see what happens. I will rotate the screen because I would like to see, although it doesn't change for you. Yeah, it's all right. So we get 1, so I got to think 1, 2, 3. Did I just lose the iPad? Rude. Technology's misbehaving today. Yeah, I'll just keep going. We can just imagine the notes. This is the bar 6. Something weird here. Super duper duper doo. Super duper duper doo. It's interesting. Just a bit of a sound effect. All right, we might leave it there. Thank you for joining over the Twitches and over the Zooms. And if you're joining in on the YouTubes, I will one day put chapters on my videos. It may happen. I have the best intentions to do it. But also best intentions, not enough time, and not the greatest amount of patience. So, we'll see. If you have any questions or you'd like me to cover something in the future, let me know. And otherwise, you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.